Right. Hi, Pav. Thanks for joining us. What do you got to say with your six, however many questions it was that we asked you?
Hi, John. Glad to be back. I'm going to go straight into the questions. So the first one I wanted to tackle was the question about Channel One and flood infrastructure in general. The short answer to that is yes, of course I support it. I think the more complicated answer is around the funding, sorry, for the infrastructure and what I would do in terms of actually bringing it forward and getting it delivered. Firstly, I just want to say this obviously impacts significant parts of our constituency, whether you're in Datchet, Taunton, Wraysbury, Old Windsor, and Colnbrook as well. All these parts of our communities have dealt with flooding and the impact it has. And it's not just the impact on their homes, although clearly that causes devastation as well. It's people's lives and livelihoods that it also impacts. And so we mustn't forget the emotional and the mental impact it has when occasions like this occurs. So then we come to, so yes, I think I understand all my candidates I would imagine, say that we need to be bringing that forward. It then comes to how are we actually going to deliver it and where does the funding come from? Now we shouldn't forget, sorry, that it was the then Tory-led council that refused to move it forward and withdrew their funding. And now we have the Lib Dem-led council who are calling for it to be entirely funded by national government. They've used the argument for the part of the scheme that is being funded is being given a status of nationally significant infrastructure project, forgetting that actually the council did put in some of the money. So I do personally believe that the local authority should be funding part of the scheme, not all of it, because I agree it's too much for one local authority to fund in entirety. But we should be focusing on putting in some funds from the local authority, leveraging that funds to get match funding from public bodies, from government, and also private investment. And I'll give you a really clear example. The Royal Borough has had a community infrastructure levy in place since 2016. It first started receiving money into that fund from 2017. Since 2017, the Royal Borough has had over £30 million in community infrastructure levy payments received. Now, on that scheme, it highlights that flood alleviation schemes is one of the infrastructure projects that still funding could be used towards. Do you know how much the Royal Borough has used of that £30 million raised so far on any flood alleviation schemes? Zero. Zilch. It has not used any of the still funding that it has collected from private developers on flood infrastructure projects. So that would be a clear start for me. And I'm not suggesting the council puts all of it in, but I would suggest, if I am elected as your MP, I would be lobbying for the council to earmark some of the still receipts that it receives from private developments as the local authority contribution towards this flood alleviation scheme. That way, it's not taxpayers' direct money that is being spent on it, but that provides a leverage from which the future MP can use that to try and get match funding. That then brings me on to the MP's role. I think it's actually been a squandered opportunity that we've had an MP locally who has been in the same party as government for the last 14 years and has failed to secure any promise of match funding. Now, I promise you, if I am a Labour MP with hopefully what will be a Labour government, I will be a thorn in the side of that government. I will not stop banging on about this until we see a real and genuine progress on the issue of match funding for schemes like this. And that then gives us the opportunity to leverage that additional the funds that we have put together, both from the local authority and the government match funding, to go for further public and private investments, whether that's the LEP equivalent or whether that's infrastructure bodies. And that's the difference I seek to make as an MP, somebody who is standing up, fighting, not backing down about the what residents in Windsor want, and actually delivering that change. I'm going to come on to the LGBT question now, if I can. I'm a very proud ally of the LGBTQI plus community. Usually on the last Saturday of every June, I'm in London participating in the Pride March. I won't be there this year for obvious reasons. So I'm a very proud ally and I will continue to be so. I'm very proud of the work that the Labour government did when it was last in government in terms of abolishing Section 28, introducing and legalising civil partnerships. And I will also commend David Cameron and his government for taking that step further and delivering marriage equality. I just think it is a shame to look at how far the Conservative Party has gone in that 10 years, from the party that delivered marriage equality to the party which is now trying to stoke culture wars and actually pit parts of the community against each other. It's unacceptable and it's actually a damn shame. So as I say, I'm a very proud ally, but that's not to mean there isn't further work to do. So I'm very pleased to have seen in the Labour Party manifesto a commitment to ban conversion therapy, which frankly is just a form of abuse, ending new cases of HIV by 2030, very much in line with the Terence Higgins Trust campaign, and making LGBTQI plus hate crime an aggravated offence, because we have seen an increase in these offences. So I'm very pleased that the government is committed to, a future Labour government is committed to doing that. Now I want to come on to Brexit. Look, I didn't vote for Brexit. That's publicly known. That's, I'm not going to try and pretend otherwise. But I absolutely respect the result, and I respect the fact that those who did vote for it had very legitimate reasons to do so. But what we've been left with is the worst of all options. The Tories have delivered a catastrophic Brexit that is making our lives poorer, our economy worse, and impacting our standard in international relations. So what we must do, we're not going to revisit the issue of Brexit. We simply can't. But what we must do is we must reset the relationship with our European allies and really seek to deepen the ties with what is our friends and neighbours and some of our closest allies. So that involves several things. So firstly, there are still significant barriers in trade. So just to give you a really practical example of this, so what the Labour government would seek to do is around a veterinary agreement. So at the moment, any food or animal produce that has to cross the border is subject to border checks, is subject to increased costs. This has massive impacts for businesses, but also consumers. We are seeing the cost of food increase as a result. So we would seek to, for situations like that, we would seek a new agreement with our EU partners so that we can take away the need for unnecessary border costs and really help bring the costs of that down. Likewise, another really practical example, we have a world-leading creative industry in our country, one that we should be really proud of. But at the moment, some of our creative industries are not able to tour in Europe because of some of the rules and regulations that have been put in place now. So we're stopping ourselves being able to export this world-leading industry across the continent. So we would look at, again, at a new agreement around that. I'll come on to social care and councils. For me, I think this is two questions, actually, because it's the question of social care, and then it's the question of council funding and what other impacts actually are creating a cost of a crisis in local government funding. So firstly, let's talk about social care. This is a sector that needs deep reform. There are standards that are being applied inconsistently across the country. There are chronic staff shortages, and the people that rely on this service, people that we love and care about, are not treated with the care, the dignity, or the respect that they deserve.
Sorry, Pav. Sorry.
That's okay.